Hello, I'm so happy to support you today. I am Rebecca Lockwood, your neuro-linguistic programming trainer, hypnosis trainer, and breakthrough coach trainer. And today we're going to be talking about how to feel less alone, and less isolated. This is quite a common question and comment that we've had within the support community, and so I wanted to address it today. I also wanted to make this something that's really important and really relatable, whatever circumstance we are in, because actually this is something that I've seen people experiencing at all times. So we may be in a situation at the moment where we may be in isolation alone and feel alone in that case, but also people can feel alone and people report feeling alone in general, and it's a feeling like people say, I'm just really unhappy. A lot of people also say, I feel really alone. Even in relationship, I'm in a relationship, I'm with my partner and I feel alone. I have my family around me and I feel alone and I just don't know what to do about it or how to get help. So I'm going to give you an overview today of everything that we're going to talk about, and then I'm going to dive into each section in a bit more depth. So we're talking about, how do I feel less alone? And the first thing that we need to do is we need to acknowledge the feeling and be aware of the feeling of feeling alone and feeling isolated. The second thing that we need to do is really understand, what is your personality type? Are you extrovert? Are you introvert? What is your personality type? The third thing we need to do is really work out, what is your love strategy? I've spoken about love strategies before, but we're going to talk about it again today. The fourth thing we need to do is speak to someone. Open up and speak to someone. The fifth thing we need to do is make time for self-care. And today I've got 6 steps in total. And the 6th thing we need to do is really initiate self-love. So going back to number 1, when we feel alone and isolated or just really lonely, we need to really acknowledge the feelings and be aware of how we're feeling. So the feelings of feeling lonely and the fact that you reached out and asked for that help and have acknowledged that you feel that way is really, really an amazing step forward to support yourself, because a lot of people feel that way but are not necessarily aware of the feeling, and they're not necessarily aware that that is the problem, and so they may feel feelings that are negative or unwanted, but they haven't necessarily become aware that the feelings that they're feeling are loneliness, unsupported, lonely, isolated, or as if they have no one else to speak to. And so just the first step of acknowledging the feeling and being aware of it is a really amazing step towards getting support and help with this. So if you're in the phase of, I feel negative and I feel like there's a feeling that I don't want, maybe it might be unhappiness, you might describe it as, I feel that way and I'm just not sure, I kind of can't put my finger on it. A really good thing to do is just to sit down with a pen and a piece of paper and just journal out your thoughts and feelings. And there's no right or wrong way to journal. You can just literally just sit down with a pen and a piece of paper and just write about how you're feeling in that moment. So the first thing is to acknowledge and really be aware of the feelings that you're feeling. The second thing is understanding your personality type. So are you quite an introvert? Are you extrovert? What kind of person are you? And the way to think about this is, how do I get my energy? Where do I get my energy from? So, for example, if you are with other people and you leave being with other people feeling really really excited and really filled up, then that is a really good sign that you're very extrovert. And the thing to remember when it comes to introvert and extrovert is that it doesn't necessarily mean that you don't like being around people or you don't like speaking to new people. It's more about where you get your energy from. So if you get your energy from being around people and that makes you feel really, really motivated and really filled up, like your cup is full, that's a good sign that you're quite an extroverted person. On the flip side of that, if you're introverted, you get your energy from being alone and spending time on your own. And the reason why it's important to understand which personality type you are is because it really supports you to really understand, if I feel lonely right now, what is going to support me the most? Yeah, because a lot of people report feeling lonely when they're with other people, but still having that feeling like there's something missing. And other people report feeling lonely because they're alone. And so when we understand what our personality type is, we really understand, am I going to get my energy from being around other people, or am I going to get my energy from being alone? And it goes so much deeper than that. But just to give you something that you can really take away now in action, and just tapping into understanding whether you're extrovert or introvert can really help support you. So the third thing is to work out your love strategy. I have spoke about this recently when I talked about how to feel loved. And the reason why this is important is because we all have a strategy that we run out for everything that we do. So in the morning, we wake up and we get up and we have a strategy that we run, which is a behavior, a sequence of steps that we carry out in order to wake up, in order to get out of bed, to go and brush your teeth. Even just brushing your teeth, you have a specific syntax, which is a sequence and process that we go through. Try not to use any words that you may not have heard of and keep it really simple. But basically what it is, it's a sequence of steps that we take. Now, we also have a strategy for feeling loved. And the reason why this is important here is because if you feel lonely when you are with other people, it's because there's a problem with the communication. You are not being communicated to in the way that you want to be communicated to, and that is leaving you feeling lonely and maybe like there's something missing, that you can't speak to somebody or you're not relating in a way that you should. So when you understand your love strategy, this is a really good place to support you, because if you understand whether you like someone telling you something like, it's really nice to see you here, and they say it to you, then that can make you feel special and wanted. If you prefer to see things, so you prefer someone, I don't know, maybe your child writing you a note and passing you a note, that would help you feel wanted and not less alone. It would help you feel less alone because you're seeing the communication. And other people like to feel things, so other people might like to get a hug, and that makes them feel more wanted and more and less lonely. Okay, so when it comes to love strategy, the reason why this is important is because when you understand whether you like to hear things, see things, or feel things, you can then communicate with the people around you in them ways. Now, in the current circumstances, if you are isolating alone and you're feeling lonely due to that, it is also a really good way to, a really good thing to do, because you can still have this communication, whether it's on the phone or a text message, and so it's still possible to carry out someone's love strategy even in the current circumstances. So the third thing is to speak to someone. So once you understand how you prefer to be communicated to, reach out to people and and communicate to them in the way that's most effective for you. Make it a game by understanding how other people like to be communicated to as well. And you can do this just by asking yourself or others really simple questions like, how do you know when you feel loved? Or how do you know when you're being heard? Or how do you know when you're wanted? How do you feel when you're wanted, right? Just simple questions like that, because then if people reply to you and say, I know when I get home and I get a cuddle, right? When I know that I'm wanted, when my kids say thank you. Okay, and so communication is really key in everything that we do. And also, when we understand our love strategy, we can also then return that to ourselves and communicate to ourselves in the way that we love to be communicated to. For example, I buy myself flowers, right? Because I know that I like to see things. I like to see things. I like to see that I'm wanted, that I'm appreciated. And so in the way that I help myself with that is I buy myself flowers so that I can see them and it makes me feel special. Okay, so you can also help, this helps with how you communicate with other people, but also how you communicate with yourself. And that then goes on to number 5, make time for self-care. Make time for self-care. And this can be something as simple as making sure you have 10 minutes to sit and read a book that you've been wanting to read. Have time for a bubble bath. Sit and make space for you to journal and get all your thoughts out of your head and onto the paper. And this really helps you, because when we feel alone and feel isolated, sometimes it is because we are not communicating to ourselves in the most effective way possible. And so when we begin to communicate to ourselves in the most effective way possible, we may have some chatter going on in our minds, and by journaling it really just helps channel that into the pen, into the paper. There's no right or wrong way to do it. Pen and piece of paper, just write whatever you're thinking or feeling. And the 6th thing to think about is initiating self-love. Yeah, initiating self-love. And this goes back to key number 3 about working out your love strategy. When you know your love strategy, love yourself in the way that you prefer to be communicated to. Okay? Initiate self-love. If you discover that you prefer to see things and that makes you feel like wanted and needed and less alone, buy yourself flowers and buy yourself a gift or something that you've been wanting. Okay, so to recap, I'm Rebecca Lockwood, your neuro-linguistic programming trainer, hypnosis trainer, and breakthrough coach trainer. Number 1, and this was about how to feel less alone and less isolated. So number 1, acknowledge the feeling and be aware of your feelings. Number 2, understand your personality type and how you get your energy. Number 3, work out your love strategy, how you prefer to be loved, how you feel loved, and how you prefer to be communicated to. Number 4, speak to someone. Once you understand how you prefer to, how you prefer to be communicated to, speak to someone in the way that you prefer to be communicated to, and make it a game and discover how they prefer to be communicated to as well. And also just pick up the phone and ring somebody, any of your friends, and reach out to anyone in the community. And you're not alone, so know that you've always got a community here to support you if you need it. Number 5, make time for self-care. And number 6, initiate self-love. So that's it from me today. I will be live again with you on Monday. You can also listen to the catch-ups on the podcast, and they'll get sent out on emails as well. So if you do need anything at all, please do reach out to anyone in the community. Have an amazing day, have an amazing week, and I will catch up with you the same time next week.